So the constructor is the method, a specialized method that is used to create object. Now, it may be possible that I may want to overload this constructor. But did you notice a particular difference when compared to the regular methods and constructor? If you see the other methods, there is a written type in the method definition. In case of constructor, there is nothing like that. Just the scope, public, parent, but there is no written type. Any reason? Any guesses why it is so?
Since it's a non-void function.
It's a non-void function. Non-void function means it should have something, right?
Yeah.
But it is not having anything.
So what we are actually doing in the constructor part is that we are just initializing the values.
Initializing?
The values or the variables.
No, what we do inside constructor, I think let's not worry about it. Whether you do it logic or whether you are going to initialize this thing, I mean variables, that's something, that is internal. That's specific to each class. Now, but what is very generic for any class is that if it is having a constructor, then there is no return type at all. There is no return type at all for any constructor you take. Not only for parent class, open the child class. And for the child as well. So the reason is actually is that the constructor always used to create the same type of object. And say by method definition, it will return, say if it is a child constructor, it will return child object. And if it is a parent constructor, it will return parent object. Now, it is like a hard-coded rule. Like, it always returns only the same type of object. Even if we have to write something like, some return type, what I need to do is, I need to do something like this. Now, if I look at this return type, it shows error. This method must return a result of type child. Okay. It is not, it is assuming that it is a regular method. Because the constructor always has to return same type of object, what they did is that, they said, okay, because it cannot return anything else. It cannot say that, you cannot say that public int child, because child is a constructor method, is a special method that is used to initialize the object. So they remove the return type suggest from the specification, from the spec of Java language. So we don't provide that particular thing. Why? Because it is implemented that way. It is how they wanted Java to be. So the reason is that, to repeat, that child class or any specific class, the constructor method has to return only the same type of object. There is no choice for us. It is a hard-coded rule that constructor method always returns a type of object where this class, where it belongs to. So if the class is child class, it will return child object. The class is parent class, it will return parent object. So that is the reason constructor does not return anything, because it is assumed that it will return only the parent type of object. Where we really use constructor, see here, we use like this. When you say new parent or when you say new child, you know, if it is not returning anything, then the left hand side, LHS side, will break. But now here if you look at this, parent P equal to new parent. That means that parent, now if you look at this part, we are calling the constructor and we are saying, new is a keyword we use to create objects, right? So when I say new parent, like a method, when I call like this a method, what is happening is it gets, it calls the constructor, and if it is successful in executing the constructor, it will return that particular value. Constructor returns an object of parent type, and the P will hold an object. P is a reference variable. P is a reference. Now similarly for child, you have child C equal to new child. Now what's happening is the new keyword is to allocate memory to create the keyword, objects. But now the other part is that you are calling child constructor, child empty constructor. Let me try to run this once. Within the empty constructor, look at this. Within the empty constructor of the child. Now, within the empty constructor of the child, within the empty. Now, you might have noticed some interesting behavior. The discussion about constructor is pretty much same. That's it. There's nothing much more than that. But it may happen that it may happen that you will have more than one constructor. So, method overloading. Having multiple constructors with the difference of the parameter types or parameter names is applicable for constructors as well. That means the polymorphic behavior or polymorphism is available for constructors. So how many ways we can achieve polymorphism? How many ways we can achieve polymorphism? There are two different terms I used yesterday.
Overloading.
Yes, overloading, that's correct answer.
And the
Override.
override.
Overriding, exactly, overriding. Overloading and overriding. In case of overriding, what is mandatory?
Inheritance.
Inheritance is mandatory, exactly. Inheritance is mandatory. Overloading means providing one more definition with different type of parameters or different number of parameters. Different type or different number of parameters. If but same type, see the same type is not acceptable. If I have a method which takes string as a parameter, and if I have another method int as a parameter, see this works as a polymorphism. Now, and let me move this aside, this method. One more thing, maybe I did not specify the parameter name. It doesn't really matter in a polymorphism. Meaning, if I write another method with the same set of parameters, but if I just change the name, say instead of name, if I give param, it doesn't really gets accepted for overloading. Why? Because polymorphism is defined by the type of variable, type of parameter, or number of parameters. There should be difference between these two, any of these two. Either the parameter type is different or number of parameters are different. Now, that's really like, I'm happy that you are with me. And the constructor part, if you look at it, constructor part, if you look at a constructor, it is possible that you can overload the constructor. Now, I'll have a specific requirements that how do I initialize my values? Now, let's look at this constructor. I'm passing a very parameter called msg. Okay? And what I'm doing is, for now, you discard this particular thing. I'm saying this dot msg equal to msg. Why is that I'm using another keyword called this? If I don't do this, now see, it shows a warning. The assignment to variable msg has no effect. What really happens is, if you don't use this operator, and if there is a name conflict, in the sense, look at the parameter name. What is it? MSG. And look at my local, the instance variable MSG. The name is same. So when the name is same and you try to assign the parameter value to the instance variable MSG, it doesn't work. Why? Because the parameter MSG takes the priority, precedence, and msg equal to msg means you are assigning msg, the parameter, the value of it itself. So msg equal to msg means that parameter equal to parameter value equal to parameter value. It does not have any impact. So it is possible that you change this value. It works. It doesn't show any problem. But generally, what we tend to do is that we tend to avoid confusion, we always tend to give the parameter names as the same names as the instance variable names. So to fix that, to make sure that the parameters are assigned to the instance variables, I do this. I use something called this. This represents the current object. This represents the current objects. During the runtime, suppose you are creating an object. So you are creating an object and that object memory gets allocated in the heap as we discussed earlier. And when you call a constructor, the memory gets allocated first and then the variables will be there, constructor will be called. When you call the constructor, whatever the instance variables, the object specific variables are there, you can initialize them using this dot, the particular type of variable, the variable name. You can initialize them using this keyword. Is this clear? The use of this keyword for variables?
Yep.
right? And then I'm saying this, and I'm calling like a method. This is to, and also interestingly, I'll show you. If I put this line anywhere else, it doesn't accept. It shows error. Says constructor call must be the first statement in the constructor, in a constructor. Look at this error. Constructor call must be the first statement in a constructor. If you have to call one constructor from other constructor, if you have to call one constructor from the other constructor, you need to call like this. The name is, again you use this keyword, but then you call like method. Okay. Now let me write one more constructor just for clarity. Okay. Now if you notice, what happened is that I am actually calling, which constructor I am calling? There are two other constructors, right? Which constructor I am calling? When I use this keyword, I'm giving MHG as a parameter. MHG as a parameter. And what is the type of MHG? It is string. So which constructor has this? This one.
Second one.
So you are calling second constructor. So it is possible that sometimes to initialize your objects properly, you may be calling, the, when you overload it with different type of parameters, you may call other constructors if it is required. And for that also again you use this keyword. This, and you use it like a method. The way you call this is like a method, and you provide the parameter values for it. In this case, simplest scenario, I'm passing MHG. Now that's about, and then for other methods, also I can simply use this dot. We don't use it for other method calls, but such as you can pretty much use this to call even the methods, and also for variables. Say now string, say hello. I can say this. It doesn't hurt, but I mean it's actually like, maybe it is a good idea to use this keyword for all the instance variables, so that when you see this dot msg, it really means that, okay, I am referring to a variable called this, sorry, msg, and then that is an instance variable. What is an instance variable? What is an instance variable? Instance variable is something that is declared at the class level, and is every object is going to have a copy of it. Every object is going to have a copy of it. What is a local variable? Local variable?
Defined inside a method.
Yes.
Defined inside.
Yeah. inside a method, if you declare a variable, that is called local variable. The scope of that variable is only when the method gets executed, the variable will be initialized, declared, initialized and used. The moment execution is over, then it is gone. Whereas the variables at the object level, that is the instance variables, as long as your object is there in the memory, someone is referring to it and is not garbage collected, then yes, the object, whatever instance variables are there, they hold the data. They hold the data. So this is about this keyword. Please, this is very important thing. And when you are actually writing a constructor and trying to call another constructor, the thumb rule is you have to use this. I mean, if you have to call another constructor, that has to be the first line. That has to be the first line. I cannot write this below this. We have seen this. This is thumb rule. It shows error. If you are calling another overloaded constructor from another constructor, then the overload constructor call should be the first one. This should be the first one. This is the thumb rule. Okay. Now, this is about this keyword. Now, let me go to child. How about that? I want to initialize the values of parent. Now, what I could do is child string I could use super msg okay. Here, this keyword is called super. Sorry, this keyword is, when I say this, I'm referring to general English word. When I'm referring to this variable that is selected. So super is a keyword used to refer parent. Super is used to refer to parent. When I am initializing the parent child object, I want to make sure the parent object is called. Parent constructor is called because when you are talking about inheritance, child has almost all the behavior of the parent. So when you are initializing child, implicitly the parent specific stuff should be initialized. Whatever is that, maybe a property or more than one properties or some logic, that whatever is there in the constructors, that gets invoked using this. Similarly, you can have the private variable. See here, I am not able to get private variables. I can only see the methods. Suppose if I want to say hello and here I want to return something, say something like, super dot say hello plus and in French. So what am I exactly doing? I'm actually overriding the say hello method. The same method is there in the parent and in the child class. I'm overriding it. How am I doing? Earlier I was just returning hello MHG. That's a French word, salute for hello. And now what I want to do is I want to actually give the whatever parent says and also then provide the translation, provide the French translation. So instead of providing only French word, I want to provide both English and French. Here also again I used super keyword. Super keyword. So I hope you are able to get me properly and there is no confusion around this. So it is possible that I can call other methods, not just a constructor, and also what I can do is so the classes I'm writing, they do not have any business value. They do not have any business value. What is the problem? Okay. Okay. Now within the child class, now let me do super. Super dot count. You see, I'm able to get the value. I mean, I could actually do something like this. It works. I can initialize the super count. And also, I mean, the reason is how did I get? I used another thing called protected. Okay. Now let's discuss about, is that the constructor part and the super keyword, is this clear?
Yeah, okay.
This keyword and super keyword I am introducing, and they look simple, but that's very important. They are very important. Often we get confused with these keywords. And remember the constructor, when you are calling another constructor, that should be the first line, and even that is true for the super as well. I cannot write this after this line. Constructor call must be the first statement in a constructor. That actually means that this has to be the first line. Either you are using this operator or super operator, that needs to be the first line in the constructor. Within the constructor, that should be the first line. Now, the protected is a special keyword in Java. Protected is a special keyword in Java that lets some special sharing within the hierarchy, within the inheritance. It is something like your family member knows a secret of yours. Okay, your child knows a secret of yours, but not the outsiders. Not the outsiders. Okay, but such as you don't actually go and tell to everyone, and such as you don't keep that to yourself. You have some data that is accessible to your children only. Children only, and they can actually manipulate. They can actually manipulate the data that you have. So if in order to have that kind of purpose, otherwise the private variables are not accessible in the child class. If parent has private variable, now there is a MHG variable here, and in the child class I cannot say MHG control space, there is no help, and also super dot MHG, no, there is no help. It means that it is not accessible. But then the moment you make that into protected, like I did for the count variable that I had just now, okay, so it is that it is only within the same family, within the set of inheritance or inherited objects or classes, you have access to the variables. This also holds good in case of methods as well. In case of methods as well. Suppose now here you are saying, suppose say something, private, and from private to protected I'm doing. Now in the child class also, see, say something, and it comes with an yellow icon here. Okay, it's a rhombus symbol and yellow one. Now the interesting thing is that, for my neighbors or outside, my maybe the residential area that I'm living in, the protected variables or methods, whatever is protected, it is not visible to them at all. It is very much private from their perspective. But within the family, my child knows my secret. Or yeah, that is the analogy for protected variables or protected methods. Protected methods are variables, they become like private variables. Their behavior is equivalent to private when some other class is referring to it. Okay, and say now I cannot call now inheritance demo class is some different class. Oh, okay. There is one more thing. Within the package, also that it plays an important role. I think I should have. It should be having access stuff. Let's only look at this private, protected, public. So where I can use the private keyword, I can use for data field. That's the main private variables at the class level. I can use it for a method. I can even use it for a constructor. A constructor can be private. I'll explain an interesting design pattern called singleton, sometime later. Okay, but I cannot declare a class as private. I cannot declare a class as a private. Private means, say public, you are using, the whatever classes I have, this cannot be private. Here I cannot do private. It should be public only, or you can skip that particular thing. But when you do private, it shows an error. Illegal modifier. Only public, abstract, and final are permitted. The error. So I'll revert. Similarly, private can be used for, nested classes. Okay, nested classes, I'll discuss that, during inner classes. And it is possible that you can make a class as private, but that should not be a top level class. There should be inner class. I'll discuss that when you are discussing, when you are discussing about inner classes. Now, there is one more thing called interface. I haven't introduced that. I'll introduce that, but for interface also same thing holds good. For top level interface, the private variable, private scope is not available. Only if it is a inner interface, if it is a nested interface, then yes, you can use. Similarly for protected, this is more of a where you can use it. So whereas public, look at the public thing. You can use for anything. You can declare a variable, or you can declare a constructor, you can declare a top level class or low level class, everything, where everywhere you can specify the public keyword. Now I need another thing, because that's about where you can use it. But what I'm in need of is, let me see if this is something that helps. Oops. Okay. So I think we can make one, separate one for ourselves. We can make a matrix for ourselves, and the matrix will be, suppose I'll say next. This I think what I'll do is I'll give you this as an assignment. You have to try this out and come back to me with your answers. I'll validate. Okay. So and chill. Say I'll say first one is private. Within the same class, I can use the private methods or private variables. I think method or variable is the same behavior. So I'll say within the same class, yes. And other classes in the same package, no. They cannot access. They cannot access private data. Child classes,
Yeah.
no. Now what is that? Protected. When you declare something as protected, you can access in the same class. You can access from outside as well. No, other classes in the same package. Okay, I need to add one more filter.
Other classes cannot access, right? Hari? They can
In the
access.
same package, in the same package. I need to add, that's the reason I need to add one more. I need to add one more filter. Just to, in the same package. Now, other packages, means classes from other packages you will not be able to access. Okay, next is, or I will say default. Default access specifier, there is no keyword called, we don't use anything. Rather, it is something that, if I don't specify anything, I have this constructor and remove. This is called default access specifier. If you don't specify anything, that is called default access specifier. Okay. So other one will be public. Oops. Public. What is happening here? The same class, yes. Other classes, yes. Other classes of other packages, first one is in the same package. Yes. I'm leaving a keyword, default as an assignment for you. I'll commit this code, and what you will do is you will actually execute and fill this information for me, or you will come back with your own version, with your own class, you will try that out, and you'll come back to me with your questions or your answers. Let me check if you guys have checked in any code. I don't see any code. Why is it so? Sorry?
I did not check in any code, Hari. I was busy
Okay.
yesterday.
Okay. Now you do that, while experimenting this, you have your own copy of parent-child inheritance demo in your package, and try to demo the access specifiers. Okay. So so this actually this makes the inheritance part. Inheritance, what we looked at is inheritance and polymorphism. Inheritance and polymorphism. And actually here I need to actually also introduce one more thing when we are discussing about inheritance that I did not discuss. It is called interface. Interface. See, the interface is another, something similar to class. How you create is you right click and say new interface, and you give a name. What should we give? Okay, let me say hello world. Okay, and the interface is an interesting thing. I'll declare a class hello world IMPL just to mean that it implements hello world interface. And there's some Java version related issues, so I'll remove. If you notice, an interface is something similar to class. Look at this. Interface is something similar to class, but then it will just have declarations only. Declaration means just that, this line is called declaration. And definition means, not only this line, but then you provide complete stuff, whatever is that method definition is supposed to be. Okay, so interface will just contain declarations. Interface will just contain declarations, and interface is another approach to achieve inheritance. Inheritance. Suppose it is possible that say a child cannot have too many parents. At least, let's look at, a mother. A child will have only one mother, right? So it is that, and the same limit is available even for object-oriented languages. So if you want to implement, if you want to infer, it is something like, I get motivated by n number of people in my life, maybe some great people. I get, n number of people motivate me, not just one person. So how do I represent that kind of situation in Java? That is by using interface. And if I look at child class, I cannot extend one more class. I cannot do this. Syntax error. Okay. You cannot have too many parents. More than only one parent is allowed in Java. So the extends keyword can only be used only with one class. Okay, it cannot have more than one class. You will, going forward, we will understand that more and more. But now, when you look at the interface, now let us look at this. And let me introduce one more interface. Sorry, I need to introduce interface. New word. Now here, interestingly, I can use new word. And I need to provide definitions for all the methods. So I added another method into interface called new world, and then my hello world IMPL is throwing error. What is it? Let me look at this. Come on. It should help me fix this issue. It says add unimplemented methods. Click this. And now okay, it works. Now let me add one more thing here. One more main class. Okay. What I do is hello world sw equal to what should I be giving now? New. Which one I need to initialize?
New.
World IMPL. Because there is no way I can initialize an interface. Interface does not contain definition. Interface does not contain definition, so I cannot initialize interface directly. That is another rule. I cannot initialize interface directly. Now also I can do is that new world nw new hello world. Okay, but let's try nw equal to new. When I do this, there is an interesting thing. This we will discuss during inner classes. There are 3 different type of inner classes. But for now, let me not do that. Now it is possible that now here, if I say hw dot say hello, I can do this. And nw dot say hello, I can do. Also, I can do say good morning. Now, if you closely look at this, the implementation, Hello World IMPL actually implements 2 different interfaces. They implement 2 different interfaces. This signature is that the keyword I am introducing is called implements. In case of a class implementing another class another interface, sorry, a class implementing another interface is called, then you use keyword called implements. Now also, I'm introducing one more interface called my world. And if I look at this, the keyword used here is extends. Extends. Now here, I'm just trying to summarize. Where is the my world? Now see, in case of interface, it can extend multiple other interfaces. I think I should put this into. So the thumb rule is that a class can extend only one class. A class can implement any number of interfaces, but an interface can extend any number of other interfaces. A class can extend another class, and an interface extends another interface. An interface can extend. Sorry, then probably I don't need this two lines. It looks redundant for me. And an interface An interface is always an interface, meaning that it cannot provide definition. It's only like just marking. It says that, okay, these are the things, it's a contract. Suppose you are a separate team and I'm a separate team. In the beginning, say suppose my module is different and your module is different, but these modules are related. I need to give you certain set of APIs there so that you can use it and continue your development. Upfront of the project, I'll not have clarity on how I am going to implement this logic. But then what we can do is you and me together sit together and discuss about the contract like an agreement. It says that, okay, you do this, you provide an interface with this name and have these methods. I will use it, okay, and I'll for now I'll refer the interface, and but then when as and when you are ready with your implementation, when your class is ready for that implementation for the for the interface, then tell me. I'll try to incorporate that particular class. But till then, you know the interface is the important thing, and we should not change anything without giving any information to the other party. In the sense, we should not do any change in the interface with the only one-sided changes. It should be acceptable by both the parties. So interface is more a contract. It is just contains the method declarations and does not provide any implementation. Okay, we will see more of this, and or maybe you go back and try this out, the interface part, and we will see more, because now you have a lot of work now. So weekend, you have the weekend, 2 days of weekend, so you can pretty much do something and come back to me with your questions and doubts, and I'll be very happy to answer those questions.